What happens when one of hip-hop's most public relationships implodes in real time, with accusations flying, social media posts weaponized, and a third child born while divorce papers are being filed? This is the story of Cardi B and Offset's bitter separation, a conflict that's transformed from private heartbreak into a full-scale public war involving allegations of harassment, financial battles, and the strategic manipulation of millions of fans watching their every move. And if you're here for the full story without the tabloid nonsense, go ahead and hit that like button so this video reaches more people who want the real breakdown. And let's get into it.
Before we get into the drama unfolding right now, we need to understand the foundation of this relationship, because Cardi B and Offset's love story was never conventional from the start. Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar, known to the world as Cardi B and born October 11, 1992, married Kiari Kendrell Cephas, better known as Offset, and born December 14, 1991 on September 20, 2017, but nobody knew about it at the time. They kept their marriage completely secret and continued to publicly date, get engaged, and act like they were working toward marriage when they'd already done it months earlier. The secret came out in June 2018 when their marriage certificate surfaced, and fans realized they'd been legally married for nearly 9 months while maintaining this public courtship narrative. Why the secrecy happened remains unexplained, but it set the tone for a relationship where the public image and the private reality were often two very different things. By the time their marriage was revealed, Cardi was already pregnant with their first child together, and culture Kiari Cephas arrived on July 10, 2018, making Cardi B a first-time mother while simultaneously navigating massive career success. Her debut album had dropped, Bodak Yellow had made her a household name, and she was proving that she could be both a chart-topping rapper and a mother at the same time. Offset already had children from previous relationships, so he came into this with parenting experience, and their second child together, Offset Cephas, was born on September 4, 2021, expanding their family during what appeared from the outside to be a more stable period in their relationship. Appearances, as we'd learn repeatedly, meant very little when it came to what was actually happening behind closed doors. Following Cardi and Offset over the years meant watching their relationship get defined by a painful cycle that repeated itself over and over. Infidelity allegations would surface, public breakups would follow, dramatic reconciliations would happen, and then the whole thing would start again from the beginning. Cheating rumors started almost immediately, and throughout 2017 and 2018, multiple reports surfaced alleging that Offset had been unfaithful. These weren't just tabloid whispers either. There were leaked messages, videos, and enough smoke that ignoring the fire became impossible. Cardi addressed these issues publicly multiple times, and here's where it gets interesting from a relationship dynamics perspective. She didn't hide it, didn't pretend everything was perfect, and instead acknowledged the problems while making a choice, repeatedly, to stay and work on the relationship. December 2018 brought an Instagram announcement from Cardi that she and Offset were splitting up, with her saying they'd grown apart and she wanted to end things on good terms. This seemed final, and Offset was publicly devastated. But if you think that was the end of it, you clearly haven't been paying attention to how these two operate, so make sure you're subscribed because this story gets way more complicated. And that's when one of the most talked about moments in their relationship happened. Offset crashed Cardi's performance at Rolling Loud Festival in December 2018 with an elaborate flower arrangement on stage, making a very public plea for her to take him back. Watching it felt simultaneously romantic and uncomfortable because Cardi looked genuinely surprised and not necessarily in a good way. And the stunt divided public opinion, with some thinking it was a grand romantic gesture, while others saw it as emotional manipulation using public pressure. Whatever it was, it worked, and by early 2019, they were back together. The problems didn't stop, though, and in 2019, a sex tape leak scandal involving Offset made headlines again, reinforcing the pattern that had already been established. Infidelity allegations would surface, public tension would follow, Cardi would consider leaving or actually announce a split, and then somehow they'd reconcile and the cycle would begin again. This cycle matters because it established something crucial going forward. Both Cardi and Offset learned how to use public opinion as a weapon in their relationship. Offset used grand public gestures to pressure reconciliation. Cardi used public statements to set boundaries and control the narrative about why she was making certain choices, and their fans became inadvertent participants in their relationship negotiations, whether they realized it or not. That pattern would become even more pronounced in what's happening now.
July 31st, 2024 brought something different when Cardi B filed for divorce from Offset in Fulton County, Georgia. And this wasn't a social media announcement or a cryptic Instagram post, but actual legal paperwork filed in court, which made it fundamentally different from previous breakup announcements. The filing stated that the marriage was irretrievably broken, which is legal language, but also pretty definitive. Not "we're having problems" or "we need space," but irretrievably broken, meaning there's no fixing this. Cardi sought primary physical custody of both Culture and Wave, their two children together, and she also requested child support from Offset.
The financial context here gets complicated because Cardi B's estimated net worth sits at approximately $80 million as of 2024, while Offset's estimated net worth is approximately $26 to $28 million, with both having independent income streams from music, endorsements, and business ventures on their own. Cardi is worth significantly more than Offset, which raised questions when she filed for child support, though legally, child support isn't about whether the parent requesting it needs the money, but about maintaining a standard of living for the children that's consistent with both parents' income levels. Publicly, though, this became a talking point, with some people questioning why someone worth $80 million was requesting child support from someone worth considerably less. The specific dollar amounts requested or ordered haven't been made public, which is typical since these financial details in divorce settlements are usually sealed by the courts. But the fact that it was requested at all became part of the narrative. July 2024 seemed like it would be a standard celebrity divorce, sad but relatively straightforward by their standards, and nobody knew what was coming next.
September 12, 2024 brought the moment when Cardi B gave birth to her third child. And you need to let that timeline sink in for a second, because she filed for divorce on July 31st and 6 weeks later gave birth. And before you click away thinking you know how this story ends, trust me when I say you don't. So hit that subscribe button because the next part is where things get absolutely wild. She had announced the pregnancy in August 2024 while the divorce was already in progress. And this is where the story goes from a standard celebrity breakup to something that ignited an entirely different level of public speculation and conflict. September 12, 2024 brought the moment when Cardi B gave birth to her third child. And you need to let that timeline sink in for a second, because she filed for divorce on July 31st and 6 weeks later gave birth. And before you click away thinking you know how this story ends, trust me when I say you don't. So hit that subscribe button because the next part is where things get absolutely wild. She had announced the pregnancy in August 2024 while the divorce was already in progress. And this is where the story goes from a standard celebrity breakup to something that ignited an entirely different level of public speculation and conflict.
The paternity of this third child immediately became the central question, and it remains the most contentious and, honestly, underreported aspect of this entire saga, with what we know for certain being that Cardi B gave birth to this child while divorcing Offset. Public statements and the timing suggest this is not Offset's biological child, though neither party has made an official, verified public statement explicitly confirming the biological father's identity. Think about what this means.
while married to Offset, while raising 2 children with him, while in the process of divorcing him, Cardi became pregnant with and gave birth to another man's child. The public reaction was immediate and intense, with social media exploding in speculation, judgment, support, criticism, and the full spectrum of opinions that the internet is capable of producing. And both Cardi and Offset's behavior shifted dramatically after this. This is when the real warfare began.
From late 2024 into early 2025, what had been a legal divorce proceeding turned into a full-scale public battle, with both Cardi B and Offset using social media as their primary weapon in ways that would make their earlier conflicts look tame by comparison. Cardi made multiple public statements, primarily through Instagram posts and Twitter, accusing Offset of harassing her during her pregnancy, and she claimed he was attempting to control her career decisions even as they were separating. She alleged manipulation tactics and emotional abuse, and crucially, she stated that he was weaponizing public opinion against her in deliberate ways. That last accusation is particularly significant given their history, because remember that Offset had previously used public gestures and pressure to influence their relationship, and Cardi was now calling that out as a deliberate tactic, not romantic, but manipulative.
Offset engaged in the social media warfare as well, though verified direct quotes and specific allegations from his perspective are harder to pin down because many of these exchanges happened through Instagram live sessions, cryptic posts, and messages that were frequently deleted or taken out of context before anyone could document them properly. And if you're wondering how 2 adults with millions of dollars and teams of lawyers ended up fighting like this on Instagram, well, welcome to 2024. And if you're enjoying this breakdown of the chaos, show some love with a like, because apparently that's what we're all doing now. Both parties used Instagram Live, a real-time, unedited format, to respond to each other and address their audiences directly, with screenshots of alleged private messages shared publicly for everyone to see and dissect. Cryptic posts and song lyrics were deployed strategically, each knowing their millions of followers would analyze every word and read between every line.
This is modern relationship conflict on steroids, because every argument, every accusation, and every response happens in front of an audience of millions. And both Cardi and Offset knew exactly what they were doing as they engaged their fan bases as participants in this conflict. Cardi's fans, known as the Bardi Gang, would defend her fiercely in comment sections, while Offset supporters would do the same for him, and both parties were accused of strategically timing their posts for maximum impact, using their platforms not just to vent or defend themselves, but to actively shape public perception in their favor. This is what Cardi meant when she accused Offset of weaponizing public opinion. And it's what Offset likely meant when he suggested Cardi was doing the same thing. And the reality is, they were both right. While the social media war raged publicly, the legal proceedings continued in Fulton County Superior Court in Georgia. And as of January 2025, the custody battle is ongoing with no resolution in sight. What we don't know, because this information typically remains confidential or sealed, includes the specifics of any restraining orders or protective orders, the exact names of their legal representation, and the current custody arrangement that's been put in place temporarily.
What we do know is that both parties are fighting for their version of what's fair, with Cardi wanting primary custody and requesting child support, while the legal system slowly works through what happens when a high-profile, high-income couple with 2 children together decides to end their marriage while in the middle of a very public conflict. The courts don't care about Instagram posts, don't care about fan opinions or who's winning the public relations battle, and instead care about legal arguments, financial documentation, and most importantly, what's in the best interests of culture and wave. The legal process is slow, though, which means this conflict has time to fester and escalate publicly while the courts deliberate privately behind closed doors. Stepping back from the specific details of who said what and when, we can see what this entire situation reveals about relationships, celebrity culture, and the way social media has fundamentally changed how conflicts play out in the modern world. First comes the pattern that was established early in Cardi and Offset's relationship, with the cycle of infidelity, public breakup, grand gesture, reconciliation, and repeat that didn't just happen by accident, but was created and maintained by both parties participating in it. That pattern taught them that public pressure could be used to influence private decisions in powerful ways. When Offset crashed Cardi's performance with flowers, he wasn't just expressing his feelings, but using the audience, the cameras, and the public moment to make it harder for her to say no. And whether you find that romantic or manipulative probably depends on your own values, but either way, it worked and set a precedent for everything that came after.
Second, consider what social media has done to relationship conflicts in ways that weren't possible even 20 years ago. Because 30 years ago, even famous couples had the option to keep their breakups relatively private. Statements might be issued through publicists, paparazzi might catch them looking sad, but the minute-by-minute emotional warfare that's possible now through Instagram Live and Twitter simply didn't exist. Cardi and Offset aren't just divorcing. They're performing their divorce for an audience, with every post being strategic, every response being calculated, and their fans becoming participants, cheerleaders, and sometimes weapons in this conflict, whether anyone intended that or not. And if watching two millionaires fight on Instagram while you're trying to figure out how to pay rent this month feels absurd, congratulations on being a normal human being. Now subscribe so you don't miss when I cover the inevitable makeup or the inevitable next breakup. Third comes the reality that both of these people are independently wealthy and successful, and this isn't a situation where one party is financially dependent on the other, since Cardi is worth more than Offset by a significant margin. She doesn't need his money, he doesn't control her career, and yet the conflict is still this intense, still this bitter, and still this public. What does that tell us? This isn't really about money, even though money is part of the legal proceedings, because this is about control, respect, hurt feelings, and two people who learned how to fight publicly and are now using every tool they have to win. Behind all of this, the social media posts, the legal filings, the public accusations, are real children whose lives are being affected by decisions their parents are making. And that's the part we can't forget, no matter how entertaining the drama might be. Culture is 6 years old, and Wave is 3, and there's now a third child, an infant, whose very existence has become a source of public speculation and conflict through no fault of their own. These children didn't choose to have famous parents, didn't choose to have their family dynamics play out on social media, and didn't choose any of this mess they're living through. Years from now, they'll be able to Google their parents' names and find thousands of articles, posts, and videos dissecting this period of their family's life. And they'll see the accusations, see the speculation about their siblings' paternity, and see their parents at their worst moments, all documented forever online. That's the part of this story that gets lost in the drama and the entertainment value of watching two celebrities go to war, because real kids are in the middle of this, and the public nature of this conflict means there's a permanent record of one of the most painful periods of their young lives that will follow them forever. As of right now, in January 2026, the legal proceedings are ongoing. The divorce hasn't been finalized, and the custody arrangement hasn't been determined publicly, with both Cardi and Offset continuing to navigate their careers while dealing with this personal conflict that shows no signs of ending quietly. Cardi continues to be one of the most successful female rappers in the world, with a net worth of approximately $80 million and a career that shows no signs of slowing down, proving she can be successful independently, which gives her leverage in this situation. Offset continues his work in music with an estimated net worth of $26 to $28 million, meaning he's financially successful in his own right, even if not to Cardi's level.
Both are parents, to the two children they share together, to Offset's children from previous relationships, and now to Cardi's third child. And how they navigate co-parenting while in the middle of this conflict will determine a lot about how this story ultimately resolves. The social media warfare has continued into 2025, though specific recent developments would require real-time verification to report accurately. But what we know for certain is that the pattern established earlier with public accusations, strategic posts, and engagement of fan bases has continued without showing signs of stopping.
This is the story of what happens when a very public relationship meets very private pain, all mediated through social media platforms that turn every conflict into performance, whether the people involved want that or not. Cardi B and Offset's divorce isn't just a celebrity breakup, but a case study in how modern relationships can implode when both parties have massive platforms, loyal fan bases, and the ability to weaponize public opinion against each other in ways that weren't possible before social media existed. The allegations of harassment and manipulation, the financial battles over child support despite significant wealth on both sides, the birth of a third child in the middle of divorce proceedings, raising questions about fidelity and paternity, and the constant social media posts designed to control the narrative and win public support all point to a fundamental truth. When you build a relationship in public and use public pressure and opinion as tools within that relationship, it becomes nearly impossible to end that relationship privately.
And if this whole saga has taught you anything about what not to do in a relationship, go ahead and hit that like button, because clearly we're all learning lessons from other people's mistakes today. Whether Cardi and Offset eventually find a way to co-parent peacefully, whether the legal proceedings resolve in a way both parties can accept, and whether they can stop using their platforms as weapons against each other, all remains to be seen. What we can say for certain is that this conflict has revealed the dark side of celebrity relationships in the social media age, shown us how quickly love can turn to war when both parties have nuclear weapons in the form of millions of followers, and reminded us that behind every viral post and trending hashtag are real people and real children dealing with real pain.
The Cardi B and Offset divorce saga isn't over, with the final chapters still being written, both in the courts and on social media. But whatever happens next, this story has already shown us something important about the price of living your life and ending your relationship in front of the entire world. And that price is higher than any child support payment could ever be. If you made it this far, you're clearly invested in this story. So subscribe to stay updated when the next chapter drops. Hit that like button if this breakdown gave you the full picture, and drop a comment letting me know what you think happens next. Because with these two, literally anything is possible.